Let's party.
Like every boat is a Bentley of boating. That's a good red flag for a broker.
Somebody who's coming into boating first, it might be a little bit shocking and even scary to get started. What do I choose?
How many times a month do I have to charter my boat to cover the cost? Everybody can be an expert overnight.
GPT broker, dockage alone would be anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 a month. James, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. You've been around the block for a long time, but before we get to your current stage, what first got you into the industry that made you excited about it?
Oh man, we're going back.
We're going deep.
There you go. I moved here from England when I was like 19 years old, and I got a job at a yacht manufacturing facility in Tampa at data entry while I was going through university. That's literally how I got my foot in the door in this business, data entry.
And when you look at, well, it's funny that you're coming from the data entry side of the business, because that's not how most people get started here.
Yeah, most people probably captains or, deckhands or whatever. No, this was, I was desperate for a job, and my mother had gotten this opportunity to move to the US, and I moved with her. I enrolled in university, and I just started sending out, resumes, and actually I didn't even have a resume, just sort of like letting people know I was looking for work. And this company that my mother was working for was hiring this data entry position. So I interviewed there, talked to the manager, and I just said, look, I get good grades in school, get A's in accounting, A's in finance, economics, but basically C's and everything else,
But so it's not like your family had any background in boating or anything.
We sailed growing up. Like growing up in England, we did a lot of sailing. But in terms of motor yachting, no. But this was also early 90s, so it's a long time ago.
Over the last 30 plus years now,
yeah,
what do you see has changed the most other than the boats themselves?
Well, the industry's changed a lot. I think some good and some not so good. But I think really it's the culture of the yachting industry has changed. I think it's become more accessible to more people, which I think is great. I remember when I first, got in this business, just to see a female yacht broker was like maybe 1 in 1,000. And now it's, it's opened up and there's so many great female brokers right now. So I think that's one big change that I've seen, aside from the technology and everything else.
What do you see how the buyers themselves have changed over the years?
I don't really think that buyers have changed per se. Maybe the way they're shopping for boats could change. Maybe the types of boats that they're looking at, now there's so many different types of boats, right? From center consoles, performance center consoles, day boats, motor yachts, sailing yachts, catamarans, power catamarans. I think the options are, if you want to get into luxury yachting now, you've got so many different brands to choose from and so many different products to choose from. Back in the early 90s, there was a handful. Now there's hundreds.
And this is probably the most fascinating part of the entire industry, which a lot of people don't understand, but there are some 2,000 boat brands around the world.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And somebody who's coming into boating first, it might be a little bit shocking and even scary to get started. What do I choose? How do you get someone started when they're looking to buy a boat?
Yeah, I think if I'm advising a client, you mean from that perspective? I think every broker probably falls back on the products that they know, right? It's impossible to know every brand that's out there and every option that's out there. So I think, when let's say you've got five or 10 brands in your stable that you're really comfortable talking about, the pros and the cons, what they can do, what they can't do. I think that's how you get clients into certain brands when they're new to boating, is what broker did they meet and what product is that broker pushing?
a lot of buyers might come into the industry thinking that boats are very much comparable to cars. And they think the brand that they've heard the most about is the best brand.
Yep.
How do you see that?
I was actually thinking about that today. It's pretty funny because at every boat show, the client will, ask the broker, so if this boat was a car, what would it be?
Yeah.
Every broker. Well, this is the Bentley of boats. Like every boat is the Bentley of boating. It's hilarious, actually. But in reality, I think there is some like similarities, right? Like some boats that are just super reliable, very functional, may not be the sexiest looking boat, or you could have a very sleek, sexy looking boat, which might not be as durable and reliable as the alternative. So I think you can definitely categorize boats into categories of reliability, resale value, sexiness, volume. I mean, just like minivan, SUV, sports car, GT. I mean, it's the same thing.
It's funny because I found you first from your Instagram. You're a very cool channel where you break down the industry, you break down the boats, you compare them. There's like a World Cup of soccer, there's a World Cup of boat brands, right? Which I think is super cool. And one of the videos that I saw you was, here's 10 things you need to do and how to avoid a broker. And I think it was a genius video because by the end of the video, when I got to the end of it, I realized there is no way I would ever want to buy a boat without a broker.
Yeah, that's funny. That's Gabe, my producer over there. He forces me to do these videos, but he comes up with some creative stuff, and I like it. So gotta go with it.
We said that there were 2,000 boat brands. There's probably 100x of brokers for every boat that is for sale.
Yep.
Somebody coming to the industry, obviously having a broker is important. I think brokers carry a lot of weight and they carry a lot of the work for the buyer. What do you think some of the 3 things that are red flags for somebody looking for a broker? Like what is the broker that they should avoid or the kind of broker?
That's a good question. Probably the first red flag is the broker tries to sell you every boat that you look at. So you go look at boat number 1 and the broker is like trying to push it down your throat. And then you go to boat number 2 and he's trying to push it down your throat. I mean, for me, that's a broker that's desperate for a sale and he's not really looking what's the best boat for the client or what's the best value boat, right? Is this boat, is it going to work for what you need it for? Or does the broker just want to sell you the boat and make the commission and move on? So I think that's the first red flag. Probably the second red flag is just, brokers that are very negative, talk, say bad things about different brands, different boats, clearly they may have an agenda, an agenda-driven approach because, look, all boats are different. All boats have strengths and weaknesses, but at the end of the day, they all do the same thing, right? And for the way most people use their boats, most boats will do the job. So you really have to listen to your customer, find out really how he's going to use the boat, and then find the right boat for him. Obviously find a good deal so he can buy right. Third red flag, oh man, that's a good one. Yeah, probably a broker that's brand new to the industry, that's learning. If I'm buying a multi-million-dollar boat, I don't necessarily want a broker that's learning the business, right, at my expense if I'm a buyer. So I'm not saying you can't work with a new broker because everybody needs to get in the industry and learn, but if the broker's new, they really need to be working with somebody experienced that they can shadow and that can help them along the way. So maybe those 3.
I would say also that how do you see how the broker's job in general has changed over the last decades? Because we come out from an era that was a COVID boom, that the only thing broker had to do is just sign contracts.
Right.
Offers came in faster than ever. But what do you see, what the real value of a broker is other than making sure that, you're not just getting a commission?
Man, I mean, well, going back to that video I did, I mean, the list is long, right? From selecting the right boat, negotiating the right price, survey concessions, closing processes. I mean, there's so many different things. Basically being a buffer between buyer and seller. And, when you get to this level and people have that kind of discretionary income to spend on a boat, a lot of times these people come with big egos and don't like to be wrong. And could kill a deal over $100 or $1,000. So I think one of the most important jobs of a broker is probably buffering buyers and sellers, learning how to filter the information, so you can keep the deal on track. I think that's a super critical point, especially nowadays with so much information available at everybody's fingertips. Everybody can be an expert overnight, right?
GPT broker.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the human element is still something that you're not going to be able to replace with technology.
Talking about technology, how if you look at the listings, one of the biggest problems we have at YachtWay, for example, is a lot of brokers don't want to invest time and money into making these listings look good online.
Right.
They don't think that the online is the value today, and they still think it's people come knocking on their doors rather than people finding the boats online. So
that's crazy. I mean, if there's no value online, then why are the brokerage companies paying tens of thousands of dollars every month for MLS memberships, right? That makes no sense. I mean, if you're listing anything, you should obviously have a good listing, good photographs, good videos. We make a policy that every listing, no matter how small or how big, we're going to do a professional photo shoot, aerial photography, video walkthroughs, 360-degree tours. We do it right. So if you have a broker that's not willing to do that, then I would probably suggest finding another broker.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's nothing worse than throwing something at the dock, still covers online, and hoping it'll do it.
You got a $1 million+ listing and you show it with your cell phone and no, it's ridiculous.
We've seen toes of a broker in the pictures.
Yeah, I've seen feet in pictures. Like, how is that possible?
Lights turned off, and then it's like, I'm wondering why my phone is not ringing.
Yeah, no, it happens. I know you guys do a pretty good, job at YachtWay of actually doing the content for people.
Yes, yeah. We realized from day one that the first thing people see is they buy with their eyes, and if you're not visually convincing somebody that this is an interesting thing and this is a product that I would even remotely consider seeing, then you kind of lost the sale before it even comes to initiation. So
this would be a good segue into the MLS.
Yes, how has MLS changed and not changed over the last decades? That's a loaded question.
How long do we have?
These cameras keep recording it 24/7 if needed.
Oh my God. This is so a little bit about my background. After I got the data entry position, I worked my way through the company over like 15 years and went from accounting manager and a few things, but I ended up being the director of IT at the end of it because I automated a lot of the accounting and the systems and the report writing and stuff. So I got pretty savvy with IT. And then I also, over the last few years, built a marketplace app for the marine industry. And I've also held an active real estate license for like 20 years. So I have, plus owned and operated a yacht brokerage company. So I have all these different experiences that lead me to a very high level of frustration with where we are right now in yacht brokerage and how the current MLS system is set up and how I think that really needs to change in a big way.
And for viewers who maybe don't know, but there are brokerage firms that pay anywhere from $5,000 a month to $50,000 a month to have their listings up on a site.
That is correct, yeah.
That hasn't changed since 1996.
Correct, yeah. This is just my opinion. I think that the way that the MLS system should work should be following very similar to real estate, right? It's a hub and a spoke method where you have a central database for holding content, and then you have the retail sites as the end of the spoke. So, in real estate, that would be, like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, Redfin, and they're all feeding from one database, right? So hub and spoke. The way we have it in our industry it's absolute bananas, man. It's crazy. And you have, before you jump in, just to sort of frame out the way we have it, we've got probably 7 or 8 hubs, and then each one of those hubs may have spokes off of it. It almost looks like one of those diagrams of like when you look at those diagrams of the DNA,
Yes.
and you've got all these circles and lines and circles and lines. It's madness, right? I mean, you have Yachtco, Yacht World, who is also boat trader on boats.com. You've got Global Yacht Exchange, IYBA, Marine Source, YachtWay, which is a great platform. So that's 8, I think, off the top of my head. 8 separate databases, all charging the yacht brokerage companies a fee, and all requiring the yacht brokerage companies to then upload the listings to each one of those 8 databases, right? And then those 8 different databases have, retail agreements, like YachtR works with Right Boat. And then co-brokerage sites, like mine or Denison or somebody else's that are either using YachtR data feed or maybe YachtWay data feed or Yacht World data feed, right? So the current climate and state of our industry is insane. The amount of money I think that is invested from yacht brokerage companies into these different separate databases it's inefficient and quite frankly, it's ridiculous. I think that, in an ideal world, you separate the infrastructure part of it from the retail side of it, right? And I think that is the future of the yacht brokerage MLS, if somebody can figure that out.
I agree with you. And the real problem, I love the fact that you have also a real estate background, because in real estate, MLS stands for multiple listing services. In the yachting industry, MLS stands for member listing services. And there's a key differentiator over here. The Realtor Association, in the United States at least, is not a government body, but it follows the government regulations. So it's a regulatory an arm basically for the government who polices everybody to make sure that they do the correct thing. And they've built the MLS site to the point that it feeds an accurate information to all these retail websites like Zillow and Realtor.com. In the yachting industry, it doesn't exist. So the MLS, so-called, is just owned by an association who hasn't developed their MLS site to a point that is actually accessible and applicable data feed and an accurate data feed that could actually be used by companies like YachtWay. So for that reason, we couldn't use it. And for example, if you're a buyer today and you go to Yacht World or any of these legacy sites and you check, for example, Azimuth S8, same exact year, same exact model, but 5 different listings all have different length, different beam, different draft. And now the customer comes to you and says, why are all these boats with different measurements? Well, because the broker who initially listed them didn't want to do their due diligence and research the exact measurements, so they just threw whatever they wanted, and it feeds to all of these sites. We didn't want to cheat for the customer, and we didn't want to take a shortcut. So we built our own system that automatically feeds all these technical information out. But you're 100% right. The way it works right now is not the ultimate way. And we've actually offered a lot of industry associations help to use our data, the actual developers, to build a better data stream.
I mean, let's say, for example, you're spending 20 grand a month with Yacht World, right? And the more listings you put on and the bigger you grow your company, the more you're going to spend to Yacht World. And then Yacht World is going to leverage that because now they have more listings. They're going to get better SEO, right? And then they're going to charge you more. So you're giving these big MLS companies your data, which, let's face it, is digital gold. It's the most important thing, is the data. You give them the data, they repackage it, and basically sell it back to you at a giant premium. Yeah. And the more data you give them, the stronger it makes them. And then the more they charge you again.
Yeah.
I got an email a few months ago, earlier this year, and Yacht World doubled my rate out of nowhere for no reason. I was paying, I think, like $3,500 a month, and I got an email and they said, starting April 1st, it's going to be $7,000 a month. But for no reason.
Yeah, the problem is that I believe every software will get more expensive for a lot of different reasons. But whenever you add price to your services, you also need to add more value to the consumer or whoever is paying for this. Frankly, a lot of these platforms haven't added anything new for the last few decades. There is a cheat code, though, with these listing platforms, which I want to come back to in a second. But in terms of data privacy and data security, it is such an important aspect of it. And especially for brokers like you, who communicate with customers who are the top 1% of their society. You don't want their names and private information to leak out. And a lot of these older platforms, they're built like farm doors. Anybody can push a door open and take whatever they want from there, like a chicken farm. And which is why we built YachtWay from day one with the security in mind. We're the only listing platform that is SOC 2 and GDPR compliant, which is same level of data privacy like banks. We're being audited every single year by third-party auditor company to make sure that nothing goes out from YachtWay, which is why we don't repackage your data, sell it back to your competitive brokerage firms or anything. I just don't feel that this is the right thing to do.
So my biggest fear is always, if, let's say I'm doing a contract and I'm using Yacht Closer or, Boat Docs or whatever it might be, and I'm putting my customer's data in there for the contract, then I'm pretty sure that these companies are taking your data and then repurposing it, whether reselling it or using it to then retarget these people. So you guys don't do that.
We don't.
So you don't even have access to that.
We don't. So it's a great question. So what we did was the whole YachtWay is stored in Amazon Cloud, and we have S3 bucket dedicated just for YachtWay as a listing platform. And we built another bucket, which is separate from the listing side, encrypted, standalone, so nobody has access to it. Only you have access. If you want to use YachtWay for closing services, for example, to do US Coast Guard registration or state, then you would individually choose which deal you want to give access because you want somebody to do closing for you. But otherwise, no, nothing. And that's not our business. We're not in a business of selling your data because it's a cheap way of doing it. That means you ran out of ideas how to make money, so you just go and sell people's data.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you're still a data company.
Yes, but I also feel like we are a software company that offers services and products for users that would enhance their experience within YachtWay, which is where we make our money from.
So where do you see YachtWay in 5 years? Where do you see the whole MLS debacle that we have now in 5 years?
I think where we're moving is YachtWay is never built as an MLS platform. It's built as an operating system for the entire industry. I mean, we just signed a historical deal with Lloyd's of London, accredited firm. So starting from February, anybody who wants, they can apply for insurance right on YachtWay. They can sign the policies, pay for the policy on the platform. Same way like car insurance works today, we're going to have with the yacht insurance. And this is global. We also have a fintech arm, so you can apply for financing right on YachtWay. We connect you with the lenders, so you can get the best rates based on your credit, based on your DTI ratios, etc. And obviously the listing side, which is where brokers and dealers can list their vessels, and add-on services like YachtWay Studio. So we come out, we create content, etc. So it's becoming more of an operational hub for the industry rather than just a listing platform.
So what would your ultimate goal be? To have like a large part of the market share of the listings, or that's not important to you? What is your goal?
Yeah, the goal is for anything to do with yachting, you would go to YachtWay.
Got it. So you want to basically be a marketplace.
Yes.
For anything related to listings, financing, insurance,
correct,
media, everything like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's a one-stop shop.
So would you consider Yacht World a competitor, or would you consider a direct competitor or indirect?
The way I look at YachtWay and other companies is like a Uber and yellow cab situation. You see the whole New York City filled with yellow cabs, but every time you want to grab a car, you get an Uber, right? You don't raise your hand to hail a cab. I think these legacy sites have their place. There's still some people who flip pages on yellow pages, but majority of the people are moving towards modern solutions. And that's what the industry is asking.
When you say these legacy sites have their place, that's an interesting statement because, if you've got, let's say, 7 or 8 different databases that we have to upload to, and in order to stay relevant, we got to at least have 3 or 4 of them. Is it really a place for all of them, or?
I mean, there's some names that you mentioned over here are already dying out before they started, right? Because the only thing they focus on is a listing platform. And if you do just one thing, there's too many big players out there who will just walk over you before you even wake up, right? So you have to have additional services that add value to the dealers and users.
That makes sense. Speaking of dealers, are you doing anything with new boat dealers? Do you have a special program with these guys?
We do, yeah. YachtWay is, by the way, the only listing platform where you can search boats based on authorized dealers. So if you want to see boats for sale, just listed by authorized dealers, you can do that. So we do have that, yes.
And do you offer, do you pull data from these dealers so you can auto-populate length, beam, width?
Yes, we pull it straight from the shipyard's information.
That's nice.
So it's always accurate, and whenever a shipyard comes in and they, let's say, correct the measurement, it'll correct automatically on all the listings without you have to go in manually. So yeah.
What do you also offer an API feed? So I could take your API, for example, and put it into my website?
Yes. So all the listings that belong to you and you have a central listing agreement will automatically populate on your website. Yes.
But what about co-brokerage?
We don't have a co-brokerage API feed. Yeah.
Okay. Is that by choice or?
It is by choice. And it's funny you asked that, because we talked with a lot of brokers who are in the industry and who have done that API feed. And they realized it's actually a disadvantage for them, because they get a phone call, hey, is this San Lorenzo SL 118, for example, for sale? And they're like, I have no clue what kind of boat is that. So then they're like, wait a second, I have to look up. And then they start looking, and then they start calling the broker, and they feel themselves as dumb because they don't know answers to their question.
But, there are companies out there that make a living on that, right? When you look at, for example, the amount of money that Denison spends on SEO. So when you search San Lorenzo SD96, the whole first page is Denison or HMY or Galadia, whoever the big guys are spending all the money on SEO. And that's deliberately designed to get that buyer to call them, even if it's not their listing, right? And they make a whole living on that. I can't tell you how many deals I've done with Denison brokers that are literally getting the leads in that way. So they make it work.
But don't you think that the customer, let's say you're a customer, right? And you call to somebody and you ask, do you have this vessel for sale? And then as a customer, you don't get any answer that is, oh, I don't know, I have to check. And if you ask about the vessel, there's never an answer. They have to do it. Yeah,
they have to do the due diligence. Right. They need to go call the actual listing broker and get some information on the boat, and then go back to that client. And then, obviously during that process, they'll send them a few other boats, and that's how they're getting their clients, to represent. So, I think a lot of companies are leveraging that. I'm not saying it's ideal, but it does work, and it is happening.
Yeah, it's working because it's been working like this for a while. The idea is really to make sure that buyers are instantly connected with the brokers that are actually listing those boats, or have these listings sent directly to the brokers. Let's say you as a customer now, and you have your own broker, and you ask, hey, what do you think about this boat? And then it makes sense because that broker was going to go, they're going to research.
Right.
Rather than having somebody who has no clue, you don't even know the broker, and then you suddenly have a broker who represents you, who you didn't even know that is going to represent you.
For sure. But there's definitely value to having, a buyer's agent and a listing agent.
100%. I'm a strong believer on that. But buyer's broker or buyer's representative by choice.
Correct.
Rather
not
than
through maybe a
exactly, yeah.
Trying to pretend that it's your listing when it isn't.
Exactly. So I think that's why it's not, at least in my opinion, the choice why we haven't done it.
So that's a fair reason.
Yeah.
Interesting. One of the things that I remember, your salespeople are very good. They're very persistent, and I can't remember who it was. It was not Mabel, but somebody else. But man, they will call me every week. Like, hey James, you gonna sign up with YachtWay? Hey James, you gonna sign up with YachtWay? And I always said, listen, I'm already paying for Yachtco. I'm paying for Yacht World. I'm paying for Yacht R. I said, it's just going to be a fourth one. Like, give me a reason to drop one of the other ones to sign up for a new one. I can't just keep adding MLS systems. You know what I mean? Like adding monthly fees, adding, more input. Every time a price changes, I got to change it on, 5 different websites. I got to pay 5 different bills. Like, what's your answer to that? Like, when is enough, right? How many databases do we need? Like, what would, like, if you were the sales guy and I told you that, what would you have said to me?
Yeah. If I would have called you, that would have been a bad thing because you would have already been signed up. But first thing, I think the most important thing that people need to understand is how far does the listing platform really reach? How much noise does it make? If you go to Google today, I just challenge everybody, go type in yachts for sale Miami, for example, and see which listing platforms are on the first page. You have your legacy site and you have YachtWay. And all these other names that you mentioned, they're not in the first top 3 pages. Why is it like that? Because of the API feed. They all take these garbage API feeds, they repackage it, change the hue of the buttons, and serve it back to people and say, hey, this is cool. And Google is smart. Google is like, no, we don't want to have repackaged content. Second of all is, what has the platform done in terms of features that actually elevate user experience? YachtWay, you have, like, for example, nautics. You can choose 2 points and it automatically calculates the trip distance, fuel consumption, trip speed, everything done automatically. This is the easiest way to plan your trip with any boat. Schedule a tour. For example, if you want to go see the boat either in person or via video call, you can just schedule a tour on YachtWay. Search tool, Waylo. You can ask any questions from the boat. If you want to search boats based on your monthly budget, you can't do it anywhere other than YachtWay. I want to pay maximum $5,000 to $10,000 a month, and I will show you all the boats. You have no idea what kind of boats you actually discover by realizing, wow, right. I didn't know. What do
you include in that 5 to 10K a month?
So
how do you calculate that?
So based on 20% down and 6% APR and 20-year loan, and we
you're talking about from a financing standpoint.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So
not we reverse the ownership with insurance.
Yeah, no. This would be very clear. This is something that I want to talk with you about also, which is the upkeep costs, which a lot of people don't understand, but they're buying it out.
Yeah, we've done actually quite a few videos like that on our Instagram and TikTok channel. So it's funny because I get asked that. Like, I think in Miami, probably the top 2 or 3 questions that anybody asks, especially if they're getting into boating and they haven't got the experience, obviously, is number 1, how many times a month do I have to charter my boat to cover the cost? Because everybody thinks, hey, I'm going to buy a boat, I'm going to charter it, I'm going to cover my costs, or I'm going to make money, and, blah, 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 blah. It's like question number 1, which don't even get me started on that, because, that's a good red flag for a broker. Any broker that tells you you're going to make money chartering your boat, like, find another broker.
But you might offset some of the costs.
You can definitely offset it if you run it like a business and you take it seriously. You can do okay, but you got to run it like a business, and then that's a whole new business, right? And then the second one is cost of ownership. How much is it going to cost me to own this 76-foot motor yacht, right? So I actually built these really cool tools for boat owners where you can put in it's online, it's boatbuyersonly.com, and you can put in all of your different points. Like you said, how much is the boat, down payment, interest rate, amortized over how long, you have a captain, an engineer, a stew, a maid, dockage, and you can toggle it all on and off. You can change all the inputs. And the charter calculator will actually tell you how many hours a month you need to charter to break even. And then the cost of ownership just gives you a straight cost of ownership. It's actually pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, check out this one. We'll put it on a screen so people can go and check it out.
Yeah, boatbuyersonly.com. It's actually, it's a lot of fun to play with. Yeah, that's like a shocking thing sometimes when you tell somebody that 76-foot boat's gonna be, $35,000 a month. And $35,000 a month, that's a lot of money, right? It's almost.
I mean, 76-foot boat to 70-plus-foot boat in Miami, just dockage alone would be anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 a month.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the heart of Miami,
Yeah.
right, Miami Beach Marina or Sunset Harbor, or somewhere like that, you could be easy 7-8K a month, no problem. If you go further north, you can shave off, a few grand.
Then you have yacht management.
Yacht management, $40-50 a foot, obviously. Financing, insurance. If you're going to charter, I mean, you got to figure probably 2% of your vessel value for insurance if you're doing a full charter program. Captain, we did this other reel on poor captains. Like, captains have been making $1,000 a foot since 1991, man. Like, it's like, how much is a captain? Oh, it's like $1,000 a foot. It's like, yeah, 30 years ago. I mean, that now, I mean, you could be 13, 14, $1,500 a foot, depending on the experience and, the kind of program that you're running and what the captain's doing and stuff like that. So crew costs, I think, are a lot higher than what people think that they are. And if you do get a captain for $1,000 a foot, you most likely, get what you pay for.
Yeah, especially, I mean, anywhere in the world, you can get a captain or you can get the captain.
Yeah, exactly. It's pick your poison, right? So yeah, that's a very common question, especially for new boaters. I mean, look, if you own a boat, I mean, you've got the T-shirt, man. You know exactly how much it costs to run.
One of the main things that people don't perhaps think about is boats are not like real estate. They do not appreciate. COVID was an anomaly. It's not normal. Depreciation is something that everybody has to go into the game with.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's the average depreciation for a boat per year? And which type of boats depreciate the least?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the depreciation line on boats, it's sort of, in the first few years, you take the biggest hit, right? And let's just assume that everybody's like really taking care of their vessel, they're maintaining it, getting all the service done, and so on and so forth. I think, your first 2-3 years are your worst, right? Could be up to 10% the first year and then 5% the next couple of years after that. And then it sort of flatlines a little bit, right? Because let's say you've got a 75-foot boat in mint condition. It's still a 75-foot boat in mint condition, which does the same thing that a newer 75-foot boat could do, right? So it's not sort of like a line to zero. At some point it kind of flatlines a little bit and it just sort of gradually then starts going down. So yeah, getting a boat that's, a really good condition boat that's, 3-4 years old is, I think, really smart move if you're concerned about depreciation and you don't need to customize a boat and build it exactly the way you want to build it. Boats that depreciate the least. I think and I'm just, without looking at the numbers, I think sport fish boats hold value really good. And I think one of the reasons is, A, they're built phenomenally well. A lot, Vikings, your Hatterases, and, these type of boats. And number two, the styling hasn't really changed that much, right? Because these rugged sport fish boats that are designed to go offshore don't have a lot of windows in them. So you don't age a boat by the window lines. If you take a Princess or a Sunseeker or a Fairline or something like that, I can look at the window lines and tell you exactly when that boat was built, right? Based on how much glass is on the side of the boat. With a sport fish, I mean, you've got very limited windows for the fact they want the structural integrity of the vessel. So I feel like they probably hold value very well. But we've sold a few and we've done really well on them. So.
You mentioned the Sunseeker, and you can tell exactly. You were a Sunseeker representative here in US?
Yeah. We when I came out of the business side of the yacht industry, I was working for Lazara in Tampa. That's the company I worked for, by the way. And that was all the business side. Then when I left there, I went into sales, and that was with Sunseeker. So I started there as in sales, just selling, and did quite well. And then the sales manager at the time, he moved on to greener pastures, and I ended up taking his spot. So I ended up being the sales director for Sunseeker. I mean, it could be Sunseeker Miami, Sunseeker Florida. Back then, the territories it was a mess with different dealers sort of selling into each other's territories and stuff like that. But yeah, I have a long history selling Sunseeker.
And from your videos, you can tell that you have a sweet spot for.
I do, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think, when you're with a brand for so long, you get a sweet spot for it, right? It's otherwise, why are you selling it if you don't like it? It was always a good boat. I was, something you were talking about cars and boats. I was thinking about cars and watches. Like if you're a boat, what watch would you be? Like if you're a boat brand, what watch would it be? And I always think like Sunseeker would be a Rolex. It's something you can wear every day. They have a million different models for everybody. They got something for everybody, and they're good quality.
Talking about different countries of boats where they're being built.
Yeah,
the world is expanding. Obviously, the production costs are raising from. In Italy now, you see a lot of Turkish-built boats, and you're starting also to see actually Southeast Asia building boats.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
I think quality is quality. I kind of have a policy that I don't really say bad things about any brand because I don't think it's the right thing to do. But there are brands built in Italy, which, quite frankly, they're not great quality, right? And then there's brands in Italy that are phenomenal. Same in England, same in Spain, same in Taiwan, and so on and so forth. So I think, if it's a good quality product, I don't think it matters where it's built. The fiberglass is fiberglass. Resin, a man engine is a man engine. Doesn't matter if it's in a Pearl or a Sunseeker. We had this Pearl under contract not that long ago, and I went through the boat. I went through every inch of that boat, and it was a good boat. Like, it wasn't a badly built boat at all. It was a good boat, and I think that boat's built in China, and some of them are then sent over to the UK, and the fit and finish is there. But a lot of the MEP systems, like the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, like really good, like well-engineered boats. So I don't think it matters where it's built as long as it's built with high quality.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I think anywhere in the world is okay to build a boat.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that MAN engines, most of these boats share the same exact systems. I mean, climas, your stabilizers, your engines, your bow thrusters. There's maybe a handful of companies for each of these components that is being built.
Yeah, exactly. All the components, all the major components are built by the same people for the most part. And then probably the resin, the fiberglass, I mean, that's a commodity product, right? Roll of fiberglass mat and a drum of resin is probably coming from China, to be honest with you. So, what does it matter?
Composite versus aluminum.
Oh, for smaller boats, I think composite. I just feel it feels better on the smaller boats. But I think once you get, over 50 meters, I think steel and aluminum is probably the way to go.
You mentioned that the quality of boats, some builders are not that up to bar. I feel like a lot of it is to do also because there's no oversight, especially from governments, for boats that are smaller size, unlike in the car industry or in the airline industry. What do you think when somebody builds a new boat? What should be the approach for surveys and inspections during the build process for boats that are not 40-meter boat?
I mean, there are certifications, like RENER or, CE and stuff like that. So I don't know how well they're policed. Probably, the engineering, the drawings are sent off, they're approved, and then it's probably rubber stamped, and then that's it. They probably never get audited after that. That's a good question. I haven't put any thought into that whatsoever. I honestly, I don't have an answer for you.
Do you recommend people doing surveys?
Yeah, I think a lot of time people, when they're buying a new boat, they don't survey it because it's under warranty, right? And, we sold, hundreds or, close to it of new Sunseekers. And I don't think that our customers hired surveyors to do any of these new builds. because they just assume that it's under warranty, and if it breaks, it breaks, and no big deal. In hindsight, I think one thing that I would probably change would be to require, milestone surveys during the new build process. Because even though it's under warranty and it might not cost you money out of pocket if something breaks or, it's not built properly, it's still time that you can't use the boat, right? Your boat might be down for 1 or 2 months in the first year because of something that's under warranty. Now, it might make you feel better that you're not paying for it, but you're losing the time on the boat, which is the most valuable.
Yeah, with boats, I'm glad you're pointing that out, because when you're buying a boat, you most likely have 3-4 cars in a garage, right? If one car breaks, it's okay because you're going to take another one. When you have a boat, you have that one only boat, and people don't use boats as often as they use cars.
Right.
So when they do use it, they expect it to be perfect.
Yeah, you want it to be ready to use when you want to use it. I mean, especially if you're boating up north and you've got 3-4 months a year. Yeah. A major problem could kill your entire season. So yeah, I think survey, to answer your question, yeah, I think that when you're building a new boat, you should have a milestone surveyor that works for you. Spend a few grand and get it done. It'll probably save you some heartache in that first year shakedown period, and have a more uptime than downtime. So
30 years in business, what do you think? What's the next 30 years going to bring to you and for the yachting industry in general? Where do you see it going?
Oh, man. I mean, somebody has to figure out electric boating, right? On a big scale. So I think that's really going to come down to battery technology. So I think as battery technology improves, I think a big change is going to be bigger boats that are battery powered that can actually last longer than 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever. Right now, I think just with the weight of boats and the drag that you have going through the water, you don't really have that ability to push these big boats with batteries alone. So then you end up with these really complicated hybrid systems where you've got generators charging batteries, you've got engines, you've got battery, you've got all sorts of different technologies on board. Hydrogen. Yeah, and I think it's, and you know how it is. You want to keep it simple with boating, right? The more systems you have on board, just the harder it is to maintain, and the more issues you have. So I'd like to see like a big push in that electric world. But again, the battery technology will have to be infinitely better than it is right now. I mean, AI, I guess, is going to be the big question, right? How is AI going to impact what we're doing? What do you think?
AI is an interesting point, and I think everybody's trying to discover. It's probably going to take 5x the time in the boating industry than in any other industry. It's so human driven. So for AI to take over boating is almost impossible. Boats themselves are still built by humans, 99% of them. So first we need to automate the boat building before we can even...
I can't even begin to see that happening.
Yeah, exactly. So I think AI is taking a back seat for now. I think it's a tool that will always help brokers and industry specialists to be more efficient with their time, but I don't think it will replace anybody. It's not going to replace brokers. It's not going to replace dealers. It's just an assistant.
So who's the first on the chopping block, the AI chopping block when it comes to boating? If it's not the boat builders and it's not the salespeople, who is it? Marketing?
I think it's partially the marketing, but again, I think it's going to only make the marketing people more efficient. I think it's the office clerks, the ones who are just data entry. Right. I think the data entry side is something that is going to be fully automated.
One thing where it's been so helpful in our industry is, let's say you get an error code on your engine or whatever. To be able to take a picture of that error code, upload it in the, like a large language model, like ChatGPT or something like that, and then it spit back, all the, could be this, could be that, could be this, and then give you a plan of, okay, how do I troubleshoot this? And go through the troubleshooting steps. I think, for me, that's been amazing.
And you're talking about that because you have an app that offers part of the service solutions?
Yeah, our app is not at that level because we deal mainly with repetitive services like boat washing, underwater cleaning, interior cleaning, crew. We have staffing through the app, and that's an on-demand marketplace app, right? It works like Uber. Mm-hmm. So if you need a day captain, for example, and you can order a day captain, and then that request goes to all the captains on our network, and the first one to take the job gets the job. And from there, it literally works like Uber, frictionless payment and calendaring through the app. You can have favorite providers, unlimited boats, it's messaging through the app. It's really cool.
And so it's available for both Apple App Store and Android?
Yeah, both.
Cool.
So it's really, really cool for that. So yeah, we don't get into more of the technical stuff because it's impossible to automate and monetize. Hey, my engine's got an issue. Can you come check it out, right? And then you gotta go through a diagnostic and everything else. So we connect boat owners with technical service providers, but just to connect them. So you can basically say, hey, I need a cat engine specialist, connect, and it'll send a ping out to all the cat engine guys in the network, and then they can get together and chat. Mm-hmm. But we don't have AI incorporated into that marketplace software.
I think it's a good point that you're bringing up, because a lot of the issues that owners face during the boat ownership is user error. It's just not doing things in a proper order, and there's some small things that you can easily check. This is how it actually works. So having maybe an ability to scan and get a quick tutorial of how to fix it would be very useful.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of. I mean, you have this AI thing, Waylo.
Waylo, yes. Yeah.
Waylo. Yeah. What is that based on a specific language model, or is that just a like ChatGPT interface that's been rebranded?
No, actually, we're not using OpenAI for that.
Okay.
We're using another large language model, but it's built to help people get answers to the specific listing. So, for example, if you want to know what generator this boat has, and it's not written in the listing, our AI goes to the World Wide Web and searches for the right answer, which generators are.
But what if a company offered 3 different generator brands, or they had to switch to a different brand during COVID because they couldn't get the parts?
So that's when we actually offer them 2 options. So if there's one boat that has Fisher Panda and the other one has a Kohler, then we tell the user this is either a Fisher Panda or a Kohler. And then we always tell them to reach out.
Is that constantly learning?
Yeah, constantly. So it's always connected to the web, so it's only getting better.
One other project that we are using AI in stuff that we're doing, like we built AI calling agents for the app. So once somebody uses the app, they'll get a call from an AI like, hey, thanks for using the Wave app today. How was your experience? Like so on and so forth. So we're building the AI components around it. And then one other thing we're building right now too is a yacht valuation tool using AI and also sold boat data. And
that's a loaded thing. Sold boat data.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it is, because technically taking the sold value of something a year ago, that boat's then gonna need to be also depreciated from when it's sold.
But sold data based on what data? Where's
that's true. Where does it come from, right? Yeah. And there's not really you could average the sold data out and you'll get pretty close. But yeah, you're relying on brokers that input, I sold it for X amount, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully they put in the right data, and who knows, maybe they're not.
I think for the industry to really move forward, we need to be more transparent, and we need to be more honest with what we do. Trying to do things just for the sake of commission is what really will at some point alienate people away.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about too is, one thing I like about YachtWay is you're actually offering services to the person looking to buy the boat, right? It's not just to the brokers, so the brokerage community. No. And one reason we built that Boat Buyers Only website was to help people answer questions that people ask all the time, right? Yeah. And it's like all these different platforms, it seems like all they care about is taking the money from the brokerage company, resurfacing the data, and that nobody actually cares about the boat buyer, right? Nobody.
You're 100% right.
Nobody cares about the person spending the money.
You know what? Before we started YachtWay, I sat down with a co-founder of YachtWay, who's the ex-head of Uber software development for Uber Freight. And the first question we asked is, what is the value we can add to buyers and what is the value we can add to sellers? If we can't figure that out, there's no point to even trying.
And then you're just doing the same thing everybody else is doing.
Exactly.
Over and over.
You know, if you buy a Gordon Ramsay cookbook, it doesn't make you a Gordon Ramsay. You're still trying to duplicate somebody. If you want to do something new, you have to write your own rules. You have to write your own game. And that's what...
You got to write your own cookbook.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we started YachtWay. So
interesting. See, we didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's definitely the really, really strong value proposition from you guys. You care about the people spending the money.
Yeah, listen, when we came out 2023, October flips, when we publicly came out really after beta testings, we haven't raised the price since. We've had a ton of new features. It's been a little over 2 years now, and the price has always stayed the same.
So are you going to keep that going?
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, if we add more services and strong products, somebody has to pay for that, right? We are paying for that right now to develop this whole thing. And it's okay to raise prices for people, but you have to add value. And you cannot raise prices by 100% year over year. I've read so many articles about these legacy sites increasing the prices to the point that they're killing businesses that have been in business for 20, 30, 40 years, the mom and pop shops, the people who are really carrying the industry forward, and they have built a tremendous list of contacts that they are selling boats and keeping the industry going. And now they're calling us, they're saying, sorry, we can't continue because we're closing down the shop. We don't have money.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only that is happening. What they're doing is they're forcing consolidation, right? It's, if it keeps going the way it's going, the only people that can afford to pay are going to be the big shops. So they're going to absorb all the small shops. And that works perfectly for a company like Yacht World, because now instead of having 400 clients or 1,000 clients that they have to manage, they're going to have 5 or 6 companies that own everything. And all the small guys are going to be gone.
Yeah.
And furthermore, it limits, like if I'm spending 90% of my advertising budget to list my boats online, I don't have money left for events, print, whatever it might be, different creative ways to advertise, merchandising, whatever. It's like all your money is going to one thing. And I think that's a big problem.
It's a good point, because we spoke with one big brokerage firm and they said, we want to join YachtWay. Yes, we will do it. But what value does it add? And then I asked, what value do other listing platforms add? And they're like, well, everybody's there. I said, well, yeah, but that's not really a real answer. Does it bring you in actual leads? And they said, well, we get few here and there. I said, well, do you really want to spend 90% of your budget somewhere that you don't know what's your ROI? Like, for example, do you ask at the stand when people walk into your boat at the boat show, where did you first find us? Where did you hear about us? And they're like, we don't do that. I said, well, maybe you should, because it would actually help you understand where the buyers are, right? And they're like, well, that's a good point. And when we walk the docks and at the boat shows, people come to us all the time, because we do the YouTube series where we do in-depth video walkthroughs of the boats. 250,000 people watch every single month. And they're like, wow, we found the boat from your YouTube channel. We found the boat through YachtWay. And that made us realize that YachtWay is reaching people more than legacy sites do, but they might not necessarily say that, oh, I found it from YachtWay, because nobody asked.
Right.
Nobody thinks that there's a reason I should ask. They just want to sell.
Well, the other issue that I'm seeing now, and it's starting to, like the last few buyers I represented, they would, buyers nowadays, they search online and they send you links. They're like, hey, what about this boat? What about that boat? And these buyers are used to only using one site, right? And they send me 3 or 4 boats. So as the buyer's agent, I then go to like 3 or 4 other sites and I send them a whole bunch of boats that they didn't even know existed.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening is, if you're not checking now at least 3 or 4 different MLS sites, you're not even getting the full picture of what's on the market. So it's really hurting buyers in a way, because there's a lot more inventory out there than what they're looking at. And I feel like a lot of brokers are still in the habit of just going to yachtworld.com, putting in a few search criteria, and then, you know, calling the listing agent, hey, calling about your boat, blah, blah. They're not going to the other sites. They're not going to YachtWay. They're not going to Yacht R. They're not going to Yacht Co. And they're now doing their buyers a disservice, right? Because they're searching for their buyers, but they're not even looking at the whole inventory. So I think the first move, like if I could break down into baby steps where, you know, what the message we would need to convey to our industry is, don't just go to one website to look for inventory, because they're not all on there. A lot of people left the big site because they can't afford it. So you got to start looking at all the smaller sites to get a full picture of what's on the market. I think that's super important, because I'm seeing that more and more now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we're hearing actually from brokers that they receive links from customers with YachtWay. They're like, hey, what do you think about this boat? And the customers keep coming to us because we have tools like Nautics, which is like incredible. People love this tool. Like brokers now use it as a cheat sheet, because customers always ask, hey, how long does it take to go to Bahamas with this boat? And they just go to YachtWay. They just tap 2 places and, oh, be in 1 hour, 35
That's
minutes.
Cool. I used to have an app that did exactly that, and I've been trying to find it again. I can't. You should make an app version of it.
It's we're thinking about expanding that.
So what how much? Yeah, you guys are probably. I mean, I would say for sure you are leading the charge on technology when it comes to the yachting industry, without a doubt. Whether it's your security protocols for your financial stuff, your insurance stuff, if you go to yachtway.com, your site's probably the most intuitive and easiest to search. And you can search now, I think, by features like, I only want boat with a Seakeeper, so you can click Seakeeper, and really cool. How much do you see moving forward, like you're going to be using AI to develop your software and your platform? Because I think that can drive the cost down. Like earlier on in the podcast, you had mentioned that you thought the software costs were going to go up. I disagree. I think that with AI coding and being able to use AI to program, it's going to drive software costs down. What do you think about that?
We are using AI in YachtWay already. I mean, we've been using from day one that it came out. What we are noticing is AI doesn't write consistent code. It enhances the productivity of developers, and we are able to move faster, but it doesn't replace developers, because they are the ones who are still going to GitHub, making sure that it syncs with the rest of the code. So it's not like AI is going to replace the developers today. Perhaps 5 years from now we can come back to this, but right now we don't think that at all.
I agree with you. You still need coders, but yes. I think your human coders are going to be a lot more efficient, because the AI can
100%
write a lot of code, and then they can sort of manage it and tweak it.
There's still a lot of oversight. I mean, each of our department, either it's the front-end developers or back-end developers, they have to go through the code that was written by somebody else, just making sure that it's following the same kind of signature of our code. And we don't want to let AI to develop the whole thing. It's a recipe for catastrophe.
So how big is YachtWay now? How many staff do you guys have?
A little over 40 people.
All based here?
Global. I believe in the world clock. If you're based only in one city, you're running only partially the clock. We're all over the world, which allows us to develop basically 24/7. And that's why we're able to move faster than any other company. And you say that YachtWay looks very intuitive. We won 3 Red Dot Design Awards. So we're the only, So we're the only listing platform in the world that has won 3 Design Awards from Red Dot. Same year that Ferrari won with the Pura Sangue, and Philips has won, Apple has won. So yeah.
So you said you have a co-founder?
Yes.
Is he still involved?
Yeah. He lives in San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Very interesting. What else you got? What else you got for me, Heigo?
It's more about what you got for me. Tell me about your app, the Wave app, so everybody can everybody can download it.
Yeah, it's a two-sided marketplace. So boat owners can download it, service providers can download it, and obviously as a service provider, you get approved for the certain services that you're skilled at. And if you're a captain, obviously you upload your CV and everything. We have an onboarding department. And as a boat owner, you put in all your boat information. So, if it's a 80-foot yacht, you put in the brand, you put in the engine makes, the serial numbers if you want, you put in your insurance data. And then once you put that in there, you can order services. And a lot of the services are billed by the linear foot, right? So if it's a boat wash, let's say it's $450 a foot. So you can just say, I wash my boat. You can schedule it same day or pick some time in the future. That boat wash then goes out to, let's say, 40 boat washes on our network within a certain radius of the boat. And the first boat washer to grab the job, they get the job, they go to the boat, they clean the boat, they take some pictures, upload the pictures. And then once they've completed the job, that money gets transferred into the digital wallet. And it's really cool.
That's very cool. And these are all verified providers over there.
Yeah, so we actually prefer to work with bigger companies and really qualified providers. We're a software as a service, right? We're not in the boat washing game. We're not in the captaining game. We're just serving up a platform for boat owners and service providers to connect. And then we take a small technology fee for doing that. So the more reputable the companies that we onboard, the better for us.
And where is it? Where is the service available?
South Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. We're starting in South Florida, and then obviously as we expand out, we can, go to other regions. But there's so much meat on the bone here in South Florida. It's, we got a long time to go before we need to really expand.
Last thing I want to talk about is availability of marinas and places to keep boats.
That's a good. Did you see that Ken Griffin just got approved?
Yes, for private marina.
Build a private marina.
Yeah. But the industry itself, we are building some 200,000 boats a year, and we're adding 50,000 slips.
Yeah. The whole thing is, it's like a catastrophe, because if you think about it, there's no real end of life cycle for boats, right? Like, for example, cars, they go to the scrapyard, right? And they get stripped of everything valuable, they get crushed, they get recycled, and off they go. And that makes room for the next batch of cars coming in. The problem with boats, I mean, the half-life of fiberglass is like 50,000 years. Like, boats last forever, man. And people don't want to get rid of them. Yeah. So what you end up with is exactly what you're saying. You just end up with this stockpile of boats, and we're running out of slips, like, rapidly.
Yeah.
And what that's doing is driving the cost of slips up. I have a friend that bought some slippage at Sunset Harbor. I mean, paying millions for slips now. We're talking a concrete piling, not a condo, a slip.
And no maintenance needed.
Like virtually zero maintenance.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. When you fly over, like, the state of Florida, you see all this available land, and I just think, I don't know what the solution is, but they're not approving new marinas, right? That's a big problem. Very few. So they just need to build more marinas, generate more business. I think it might be an environmental issue. I'm not sure, but
it's probably environmentalists. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't know enough about that, but yeah, we're headed to it's a big problem for sure.
Before the world collapses, last thing, which boats do you feel most comfortable if anybody wants to reach out to you and wants to find a good broker to represent them to find X boats, which boats would they be?
You know what? It's I just like to have a conversation with the buyer and see what works for them. It could be a Sunseeker, it could be a San Lorenzo, it could be a Sportfish boat. It really depends on how much they want to spend, how they're going to use the boat, and the whole picture. And I think that's what it's all about, right? Is listening to the buyer and helping him, guiding him into the right product.
Great. Well, James, thank you for sitting down with us. Appreciate everything.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.